Have you ever felt a chill creep up your spine, even on a warm day? Imagine wandering through the vast, silent forests of Canada where the snow blank, it's everything in a soft, almost magical white. The trees stretch endlessly, their branches like arms reaching into the sky, and the wind whispers secrets you can't quite catch. It's beautiful, yes, but it's also haunting. Among these quiet woods lies a story, an old legend that has been whispered for generations. A story that teaches us about the dangers of greed, hunger, and losing touch with our humanity. That story is the Wendigo. The Wendigo is not just a monster, it's a symbol. It is said to appear in the coldest, most unforgiving parts of the forest, a creature born from hunger so deep it becomes unending. Its hunger is never satisfied, and it is always searching. They say it once was human, but it gave in to something darker, something that consumed every ounce of compassion and kindness. Its skin is pale, stretched tight over bones, and its eyes are said to reflect the endless emptiness inside. But the Wendigo is more than a terrifying figure to scare children. It's a warning. The stories told by the indigenous peoples of Canada remind us that greed, selfishness, and the desire for more than we need can turn a person into something monstrous. In the cold, lonely woods, where survival is already a struggle, the Wendigo represents the loss of balance, of respect for the land and for each other. It's a lesson wrapped in fear, a reminder that our choices define us, even in the harshest conditions. What fascinates me most is how this legend has survived for centuries. Even today, when the world feels bigger, busier, and less connected to the quiet places, the Wendigo remains. People still share the stories, especially around campfires, as the flames flicker over faces, casting long shadows that dance like the Wendigo itself. There's something about the way it embodies both the natural world and the dangers within ourselves. It's a legend that speaks to the human heart, to our fears, and to our responsibility to be careful about the desires we let grow unchecked. And though we may never see it, the idea of the Wendigo lingers in the mind. It makes you think twice about the choices you make when no one is watching, about the way you treat others and the world around you. It's a chilling thought, but also strangely comforting, because stories like these connect us to generations past, to people who lived and worked in these same forests, facing the same cold and learning the same lessons. The Wendigo is a reminder that even in beauty there can be darkness. It's a part of Canada's rich tapestry of myths and legends, and it continues to intrigue and terrify because it's more than a ghost story. It's a mirror. And sometimes, looking into that mirror, we see not what lies in the forest, but what lies inside ourselves. The Wendigo is one of those stories that makes your skin crawl even when you're safe and warm, tucked inside a cozy room far from the forests where it is said to dwell. It is a legend that hails from the cold, sprawling wilderness of Canada, where the snow stretches endlessly and the trees stand like silent sentinels over the frozen land. There is a stillness to these forests, a quiet so deep that even the slightest sound seems amplified, and it is in this silence that the Wendigo is said to roam. It is not a creature of daylight or comfort. It belongs to the shadows, to the spaces where the forest seems alive with whispers, and the wind carries secrets you cannot fully understand. To think about it, the Wendigo is more than a monster story. It is a reflection of the harshness of nature, of the loneliness and isolation that can creep into the human spirit when the cold presses in from all sides. People have described it as a being of endless hunger, a hollow figure that drifts through the snow like a shadow of despair, and the very thought of it can make even the bravest shiver. The forests where the Wendigo is said to exist are vast and beautiful, but they are also unforgiving. The snow can fall in sheets that obscure the path, and the wind can bite so sharply that it feels like the forest itself is testing anyone who dares to enter. In this environment, survival is already a challenge, and the idea of a creature that preys upon the weaknesses of humans adds a layer of psychological terror to the physical danger of the cold. The Wendigo embodies the fears of isolation, the dread of becoming lost, and the terror of hunger so deep that it seems to consume every part of a person. Even in stories, it is described as lingering near those who wander too far alone, watching, waiting, and feeding off the desperation that comes from being alone in a vast, silent forest. The very concept of it plays on our primal instincts, the instinct to survive, the instinct to avoid the unknown, and the instinct to fear that which we cannot see but feel. What is fascinating about the Wendigo is how it has been passed down through generations. Indigenous peoples of Canada have long told the story as a cautionary tale, teaching lessons about respect for the land, moderation, and the importance of community. The legend is not simply about fear for fear's sake. It is a story that carries deep meaning about the balance between humans and the natural world, and the consequences of letting darker impulses take over. It warns of the dangers of greed and selfishness, of letting hunger or desire grow beyond control, and of losing one's humanity in the process. In a sense, the Wendigo is both a literal and metaphorical presence. It is a monster that haunts the forest, but it is also a reflection of the ways in which people can be consumed by their own inner darkness when faced with extreme circumstances. The imagery of the Wendigo is haunting. People who tell the stories speak of it as emaciated, its skin stretched tight over bones, its eyes glowing with an unnatural hunger that seems to pierce through the soul. It is said to move silently, almost blending into the forest around it, yet it carries an aura of menace that makes the hair on the back of the neck stand on end. The cold environment in which it is said to dwell only adds to its terrifying presence, for the snow and ice mirror the emptiness within the creature, the void of unending desire that cannot be satisfied. Even the name Wendigo carries weight, evoking fear and respect, a reminder that the stories are not just for entertainment. They are meant to teach, to warn, and to preserve a connection between people and the natural world. Despite the fear it inspires, the Wendigo also holds a strange fascination. There is a way in which it captures the imagination, inviting people to ponder the extremes of human nature and the fragility of the human spirit. The forests of Canada are full of beauty and wonder, but the legend of the Wendigo reminds us that beauty can coexist with danger, and that the silence of the snow-covered woods may be hiding stories far older and more complex than we realize. It is a story that lingers, that seeps into dreams and thoughts, and that encourages reflection on what it means to survive not only physically, but morally and spiritually as well. The Wendigo is more than just a ghost story or a creature that haunts the forests of Canada. It is a symbol, reflection of the darkest parts of human nature, and the consequences of letting desire spiral out of control. In the tales that have been passed down through generations, it represents greed and unquenchable hunger, a hunger that is not merely for food, but for power, for control, for more than what is necessary. The Wendigo's endless craving mirrors the dangers of allowing our wants to overcome our sense of morality, and it is in this symbolism that the legend takes on a weight far beyond a simple frightening story told around a fire. It is a cautionary tale, a reminder that when humans give in to selfishness or allow desire to dominate their hearts, they risk transforming into something monstrous, something unrecognizable even to themselves. This is what makes the Wendigo so compelling, because it is not just a creature that lives in the woods. It is a warning that the forest itself can reflect the darkness inside us, showing how far a person can fall when they lose balance, when hunger and greed overtake reason and compassion. In the traditional stories, the Wendigo is said to have once been human. It is a terrifying idea that someone can be transformed not by magic alone, but by the choices they make and the impulses they fail to control. Hunger in these tales is more than physical. It becomes a metaphor for insatiable desire, for the inability to know when enough is enough, The Wendigo is never satisfied, and that is what makes it so frightening. It is a creature of emptiness, a hollow reflection of the worst that can exist within a human being. It teaches a lesson that is both simple and profound. Giving in to greed, envy, or selfishness can consume a person from the inside out, turning them into something they never imagined they could become. In this way, the Wendigo is less about external monsters and more about internal struggles, the parts of ourselves that we must constantly keep in check if we hope to remain human in a world that often tempts us to take more than we need. The legend also connects deeply to the natural environment of Canada, where the forest is both beautiful and merciless. Harsh winters, endless snow, and isolation create a setting where survival is never guaranteed, and it is within this setting that the Wendigo's symbolism becomes particularly powerful. The creature embodies the consequences of imbalance, of disrespecting the land or taking more than one should. Indigenous teachings emphasize harmony with nature, the importance of moderation, and the value of community, and the Wendigo serves as a vivid illustration of what happens when these principles are ignored. In a frozen landscape where food is scarce and every decision can mean life or death, giving in to selfish desire is not just morally wrong, it is dangerous, and it can turn the human spirit into something unrecognizable. The Wendigo's insatiable hunger is, therefore, both literal and symbolic, a reminder of how easily imbalance can lead to ruin. Stories of the Wendigo often highlight its terrifying appearance, but the fear it inspires goes beyond what it looks like. Its physical description, with pale, stretched skin, hollow eyes, and an emaciated frame, is a reflection of the emptiness inside, the unending hunger that defines it. This emptiness is what makes it so haunting, because it is not just the body that is monstrous, it is the soul. By describing it in such vivid terms, storytellers emphasize the danger of letting greed and desire strip away the qualities that make a person compassionate, kind, and human. The Wendigo is a reminder that the choices we make, even in moments of desperation, shape who we are, and that losing sight of our values can leave us hollow, even in the midst of survival. Even in modern times, the symbolism of the Wendigo continues to resonate. The stories remain a part of Canadian culture, and they are told not only to frighten, but to teach, to remind, and to provoke reflection. It is a symbol that transcends time, connecting the harsh lessons of the past with the challenges of the present. The Wendigo encourages people to examine their own desires, to question what they truly need, and to consider the consequences of letting hunger, whether for food, power, or something deeper, consume them. In this way, the legend remains alive, not just as a story of fear, but as a story of moral guidance, a tale that warns us about the dangers that exist both in the world and within ourselves, and the importance of maintaining balance, respect, and awareness in every part of our lives. The Wendigo's appearance is as haunting as the stories that surround it, and it is this physical presence that lingers in the imagination long after the tale is told. Descriptions often paint it as terrifyingly emaciated, with skin stretched tight over bones and limbs that seem impossibly long, as though it has been pulled and twisted by some unseen force. Its eyes are often described as glowing or reflecting a strange, unnatural light, a window into the emptiness that lies within. This creature seems more shadow than flesh, more spirit than body. Yet it moves with purpose and intent, stalking silently through the frozen forests where snow crunches underfoot and the wind carries faint whispers. The very idea of it is enough to make someone pause and consider the vast, lonely spaces of the Canadian wilderness, and how easily one could vanish within them. The physical form of the Wendigo embodies fear, but it also embodies a story about transformation, about the way that hunger, desire, and isolation can reshape a being until it becomes something unrecognizable and unnatural. In many ways, the terrifying appearance of the Wendigo is a reflection of what it has become on the inside. The legends emphasize that it was once human, a reminder that monstrosity is not always born, but can be created through actions and choices. The emaciated body, the hollow eyes, the gaunt frame, they are not just frightening for the sake of fear, they are symbolic of the consequences of giving in to unrestrained hunger, selfishness, or greed. In this way, the Wendigo's outward form mirrors its inner emptiness, showing that when one loses sight of compassion, restraint, and humanity, the result can be as monstrous as the stories suggest. The legends teach that transformation is not only physical, it is moral and spiritual as well, a warning that when the basic principles of balance and moderation are abandoned, the result can be devastating. Its appearance is a story written in flesh and shadow, a terrifying illustration of what happens when human impulses are left unchecked. The Wendigo is also a creature of silence and stealth, moving through the forest almost unseen, like a shadow blending with the trees. Its presence is often felt more than it is seen, a whisper in the wind, a rustle in the snow, a sense of being watched when no one else is around. This subtlety adds to the fear it inspires, for it is not only the physical form that is frightening, but the idea that danger could be lurking in every quiet corner, waiting for someone to falter. The forest itself becomes part of the legend, the trees and snow serving as both camouflage and stage, emphasizing the isolation and vulnerability of anyone who might cross paths with the creature. It is a reminder that fear is not only in what is visible, but in what is imagined, in the unknown, and in the way that the mind fills silence with shadows and possibilities. The physical characteristics of the Wendigo have also influenced how people perceive the human capacity for transformation. Its skeletal frame, elongated limbs, and empty gaze are not just physical attributes. They are metaphors for what can happen when desire consumes a person. The idea that someone could be transformed into a creature of such grotesque hunger reflects a broader moral lesson about restraint, moderation, and respect for life. The body tells a story that the mind alone cannot, illustrating that the consequences of selfish actions can be seen as well as felt, and that survival in the harsh wilderness is as much about character and decisions as it is about strength or skill. In this way, the Wendigo is both literal and symbolic, a creature whose form reinforces the teachings embedded in the legend. Even today, the terrifying image of the Wendigo continues to capture imagination and inspire awe. From illustrations to retellings in modern media, its emaciated figure, hollow eyes, and silent movements remain iconic, reminding audiences of the lessons the original stories sought to convey. There is a fascination with its form, a recognition that its horror lies not in mere appearance, but in what that appearance represents. The loss of humanity, the power of insatiable desire, and the chilling possibility that a person can change so profoundly that they are no longer recognizable. The Wendigo's image is not just a monster. It is a mirror reflecting the potential consequences of actions left unchecked, a physical manifestation of a lesson that is timeless and deeply human, even as it dwells in the frozen forests of legend. The Wendigo is not only a terrifying creature, but also a central figure in the cultural heritage and teachings of indigenous peoples in Canada. Its story has been passed down through generations as a cautionary tale, reminding communities of the importance of balance, respect, and moral integrity. The legend teaches that the Wendigo is created through extreme selfishness, greed, or the violation of communal and spiritual laws, and it emphasizes that actions have consequences far beyond the immediate moment. These stories were never simply told to frighten. They were a way of transmitting wisdom about living in harmony with one another and with the natural world, a method of instilling values that ensured the survival of the community and the environment alike. In the dense forests of Canada, where survival has historically been a delicate balance, the Wendigo serves as a vivid reminder of what happens when that balance is disrupted and the individual pursues desires at the expense of others. Indigenous teachings about the Wendigo focus not only on the creature itself, but also on the human behaviors that give rise to it. Greed, gluttony, and selfishness are central to the stories, reflecting the dangers of allowing hunger, whether physical or metaphorical, to dominate the heart. The legend warns that when people prioritize their own needs and desires over those of their community, or when they take more than they need from the land, they risk transforming into something unrecognizable and monstrous. In this way, the Wendigo is both a moral compass and a mirror, showing how human behavior can spiral into destruction if left unchecked. It teaches that survival is not simply a matter of physical endurance, but also a matter of ethics, compassion, and maintaining harmony with the world around us. The stories highlight that in extreme circumstances, the choices we make define our humanity, and that succumbing to base impulses can be far more dangerous than the cold, harsh wilderness itself. The cultural significance of the Wendigo extends to its role as a teacher of restraint and mindfulness. The harsh winters of Canada, the scarcity of resources, and the isolation of life in remote forests all contribute to the power of the legend. In these environments, survival was never guaranteed, and the pressure to take more than necessary could be immense. The Wendigo embodies the consequences of giving in to these pressures, a figure that transforms both literally and symbolically when balance and moderation are lost. By warning against excess and encouraging careful, thoughtful living, the stories helped communities navigate the challenges of their environment, reinforcing the values necessary to thrive rather than simply survive. The Wendigo is therefore not only a creature of fear, but also a guidepost for proper behavior, an allegory for the dangers of overindulgence and disrespect. Furthermore, the Wendigo connects moral teachings with a deep respect for the land and the interconnectedness of life. Indigenous perspectives often emphasize that humans are not separate from the environment, but part of a complex system, and the Wendigo serves as a caution against disrupting that system. Overhunting, greed, or exploitation are not merely practical mistakes. They are spiritual transgressions that can lead to the metaphorical or literal creation of a Wendigo. This connection between ethics, ecology, and spirituality makes the legend particularly profound, for it integrates fear, respect, and responsibility into a story that can be understood and remembered by all members of the community. It underscores that the forest is not just a backdrop for survival, but a living moral space, and that harmony within it requires both careful action and awareness of consequences. The stories of the Wendigo also have a social dimension, serving to reinforce the bonds between community members. By teaching the dangers of selfishness and the importance of supporting one another, they encourage cooperation and empathy, reminding people that isolation and greed are paths to ruin. The legend warns that no one is truly safe when the spirit of the Wendigo is allowed to flourish, and that humanity is preserved not through individual dominance, but through connection, respect, and shared responsibility. In this way, the Wendigo operates as both a monster and a teacher, an embodiment of fear that carries with it lessons about morality, community, and the delicate balance between humans and the natural world. Even today, the cultural significance of the Wendigo remains alive. The stories continue to be shared, adapted, and reflected upon, serving as a bridge between past and present, tradition and modernity. They remind us that myths are not just entertainment, but tools for teaching, for remembering, and for maintaining awareness of the values that sustain communities and relationships, and they encourage reflection on the consequences of actions, the importance of restraint, and the enduring power of respect for both people and the land. The lasting impact of the Wendigo legend reaches far beyond the snowy forests of Canada, lingering in the imagination and in cultural consciousness, reminding us that some stories are timeless because they speak to the deepest parts of who we are. Even in modern times, when cities grow and technology connects us across vast distances, the Wendigo continues to capture attention, to evoke fear, and to inspire reflection. It is a story that is both ancient and surprisingly relevant, for the lessons it contains about greed, hunger, and the loss of humanity are universal and enduring. People still share these stories around campfires in books, films, and conversations, not merely to entertain, but to connect with the moral and emotional truths that the legend carries. Its presence in contemporary culture demonstrates that fear can be a tool for wisdom, that legends can endure because they reveal something essential about human nature, and that even creatures of myth can guide us toward understanding ourselves more deeply. The Wendigo's impact is not limited to fear or fascination. It also provokes contemplation about human desires and the choices we make. The creature embodies insatiable hunger, and this hunger is a mirror to the ways humans can become consumed by their own ambitions, cravings, or selfishness. In a world where the temptation to take more than is needed can feel overwhelming, the Wendigo reminds us that balance, restraint, and empathy are crucial. It is a haunting reflection of what can happen when our desires outweigh our conscience, and it challenges us to consider the consequences of letting greed guide our actions. In this way, the legend continues to resonate not because of the terror it inspires alone, but because it speaks to our own vulnerabilities and our capacity for both darkness and compassion. The story also fosters a connection between the past and the present, linking generations through shared knowledge and experience. Indigenous peoples of Canada have passed the legend down for centuries, and each retelling carries the weight of history, culture, and collective memory. It is a bridge across time, allowing modern audiences to glimpse the values, struggles, and wisdom of those who came before. The Wendigo teaches lessons about survival, ethics, and respect that remain relevant even today, demonstrating that folklore can be both entertaining and deeply instructive. Through this enduring legend, we can understand how fear can be transformed into guidance, how the unknown can become a tool for reflection, and how stories, even those of darkness, can illuminate the path toward awareness and understanding. What makes the Wendigo especially powerful is the way it combines the terrifying with the symbolic. Its image is unforgettable: the pale, emaciated figure, the hollow eyes, the unnatural hunger that drives it ever forward. And yet its true power lies in what it represents. It is not merely a monster that prowls the forest, it is an idea, a warning, and a lesson. The legend encourages introspection, asking us to examine our own impulses, to reflect on our relationships with others, and to consider our connection to the natural world. In every whisper of the wind through the trees or in the flickering shadows of a fire, the Wendigo lingers, reminding us that the most frightening monsters are sometimes the ones within ourselves, shaped by our desires, choices, and actions. The legend's influence also extends into contemporary art, literature, and storytelling, inspiring writers, filmmakers, and creators to explore themes of hunger, greed, and transformation. Each new adaptation or retelling reinforces the enduring power of the Wendigo as both a cautionary tale and a source of fascination. It serves as a reminder that even as the world changes, some truths remain constant, that unchecked desire can lead to destruction, that isolation can breed fear and desperation, and that maintaining moral and ethical balance is essential for preserving our humanity. By continuing to engage with the legend, people keep alive not only the story itself, but also the lessons it carries, ensuring that the wisdom of the past remains relevant for generations to come. The Wendigo is also a story that encourages empathy and awareness because it asks us to think beyond ourselves and consider the broader consequences of our actions. By portraying a being consumed by insatiable hunger, it teaches that selfishness and greed have effects that ripple outward, affecting communities, the environment, and even one's own sense of self. In this way, the legend functions as both a mirror and a guide, reflecting the potential for darkness within us while offering a pathway toward mindfulness, restraint, and moral clarity. Its impact is enduring because it is not just a tale of fear. It is a story of reflection, connection, and the enduring human struggle to balance desire with responsibility.